To another video on expanding brackets, and in this video we're going to take a look at how to expand 3 sets of brackets. So in the previous video we looked at double brackets, and if you'd like to see that video as well as all of my other videos on this topic, then I have put a link to the playlist in the description. Okay, so I'm going to go through one example first, and then I'm going to give you some questions to have a go at yourself. So we've got 3 sets of brackets here, and we need to expand these brackets, and then we're going to simplify our answer. Now what we need to do is, first of all, we need to expand 2 of these brackets. Now it doesn't matter which ones we pick. I usually pick the first 2. So I'll just expand these 2 brackets, and then whatever I get on my answer, I will then multiply that with the final set of brackets. So you could pick the second and the third, you could pick the first and the third, but I just, for habit, I always pick the first and the second ones. So let's do that, and I'm going to expand this using the grid method, which I spoke about in the last video. So we've got y plus 1, so y and then plus 1, and then we've got y and minus 2, and I'm just going to draw a quick grid here. And again, you don't need to be you don't need to take a long time about this. So we're going to multiply everything in the first bracket by everything in the second bracket. So first of all, y times y, that will give us y squared. Y times 1, well, that's just y. Y times negative 2 is negative 2y. And finally, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. So we've expanded our first set of brackets. We just need to simplify our answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it up here. Let's do a different colour. So I've got y squared. Now I could write plus y and then minus 2y, but we can simplify this. So these 2 terms are like terms. So negative 2y plus y is just negative 1y, or I could just say negative y. And then we've got that negative 2 at the end there. So I've expanded and simplified my first set of brackets. So these 2 here. And I'm just going to put those in brackets, and now I'm going to multiply that by my final set of brackets. So in purple here, we've got y plus 3. Now I'm again going to use the grid method, so I'm just going to draw another grid. Let's make it a bit bigger this time because we've got slightly more terms. So this time it's going to be a 3 by 2 grid. So along the top, I'm going to put this what's in this bracket. So I've got y squared minus y and then minus 2. And then down the side, I'm going to have y and then plus 3. So again, we're going to multiply everything in this bracket by everything in this bracket. So y times y squared, well, that will give us y cubed. Y times negative y, that's negative y squared. Y times negative 2 is negative 2y. Y squared times 3 is 3y squared. 3 times negative y is negative 3y. And finally, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So now we can write down our final answer. We've got y cubed. And now we can simplify. So these diagonals, always look out for the diagonals because you can simplify. These are like terms. If we've got 3y squared minus 1y squared, well, that's going to give us 2y squared. So plus 2y squared. And then we've got another set of diagonals we can simplify. So these are also like terms. Negative 3y minus another 2y, well, that's going to be negative 5y. Negative 5y, and then finally we've got that negative 6 hanging out the back there. So this will be our final answer. And again, it doesn't matter the order you do it. So I could have multiplied the y plus 1 and the y plus 3 first, and then multiplied by my answer by y minus 2, and you would have got lots of different workings out here, but the final answer should always be the same. So now I've gone through an example, I'm going to have you to have a go at doing a few yourself. Okay, it's over to you now. So I've got 4 questions. And what I'd like you to do is expand the brackets and then simplify your answers. Okay, let's go through the first one. So again, I'm going to multiply out the first 2 brackets. So we're going to have x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 5. So x times x is x squared. x times 2 is 2x, x times 5 is 5x, and 5 times 2 is 10. And now if we simplify our answer, we get x squared. And then these two terms will simplify. These are like terms. So 5x plus 2x is plus 7x. And then finally, we've got plus 10. So this is our answer to the first part. So if I just write this up here, we've got x squared plus 7x plus 10. And now I'm just going to multiply that by our final bracket, which is x plus 2. So x times x squared is x cubed. X times 7x is 7x squared. And then this is going to be 10x. X squared times 2 is 2x squared. 2 times 7x is 14x. And finally, 2 times 10 is 20. So let's write our final answer down. So we're going to start off, I always like to start off with the highest degree term. So x cubed. And then these two terms, let's just circle them. 2x plus 7x is plus 9x, or I should say 2x squared plus 7x squared is 9x squared. And then again, these two terms, 10x plus 14x is plus 24x. And finally, we've just got that plus 20. So let's just box it so it's clear. This is my final answer for this question. Okay, let's go down. So this is question 2. So just to show you that we don't have to do it in the same order, let's pick the first term, or the first bracket and the third bracket. So let's do x minus 6. Oh, sorry, I've done that wrong. So it's going to be x in the first box and then minus 6 and then x minus 2. So let's multiply these together. X times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Okay, let's write our answer for this part. So we're going to have x squared. And then these two terms are going to simplify to negative 8x. And then we've got plus 12. And again, you might get a different answer to me because I've picked different brackets. But let's carry on. So we're going to have x squared minus 8x plus 12. And then down the side, we're going to have the middle term, which is x plus 1. So x times x squared is x cubed. X times negative 8x is negative 8x squared. X times 12 is 12x. Just making sure I do this correctly. I don't want to make any silly mistakes. X squared times 1, well, because we're timesing by 1, it's just going to be the same. So we're going to have x squared minus 8x plus 12. Okay, now let's write our final answer down. So we're going to start off with x cubed. And then these two terms here simplify. That's going to be negative 7x squared. And then finally, these two terms are going to simplify. That's going to be positive 4x. And then finally, we've got plus 12. So even if you had different values during the workings out, your final answer should be the same as mine. Okay, let's go on to question number 3. And I'm just going to stick with my traditional method. So let's do 3x plus 5 times 3x plus 2. So this is going to be 9x squared. And then we're going to have 15x. And then 6x. And then 10. So let's write this down. We're going to have 9x squared. And then these two terms will simplify to plus 21x. And then plus 10. So again, let's transfer it up here. 9x squared plus 21x plus 10. And then down here, we're going to have x minus 10. X minus 10. So we've got x times 9x squared. We're going to have 9x cubed. And then we're going to have 21x squared. And then we're going to have 10x. 9x squared times negative 10 is negative 90x squared. I can just about fit that in. And then negative, so this is going to be a large number, 210x, that's right. And then these two terms multiplied together will be negative 100. And I should have said at the beginning, if you do want to skip to the end so you can just see the answers, please do that. I won't be offended. And then finally, let's write our final answer down because we've got all of our terms. We just need to simplify. So we're going to have 9x cubed. These two terms, it's quite nice that you always get the diagonals that simplify. So negative 90 plus 21 is going to be negative 69, I think. Negative 69x squared. And then these two terms, negative 210 plus 10, well, that's just going to be minus 200. So it's going to be minus 200x and then minus 100. So quite tricky, that one. That is our final answer. And now we've got one more to do. And now it doesn't look like triple brackets, but because we've got this squared, we've got, this is basically x plus 2 times 3 minus x times another 3 minus x. So let's do these two terms first, these two brackets first. So x, actually let's keep with the same colours. I don't want to change my colour palette. So we've got x plus 2 and then 3 minus x. So we're going to have 3x here. We're going to have 6 here. We're going to have negative x squared here, and we're going to have negative 2x here. So when we simplify this, I'm going to start at the bottom left this time because I always like to start with the highest degree term. So let's start off with negative x squared. Now just be really careful because it's not the positive diagonals that simplify, it's these diagonals. So going from top left to bottom right. So just be careful. Don't always go in the same direction when you're simplifying. So 3x minus 2x, well, that's just plus x. And then we've got plus 6. So again, let's pop that up here. Negative x squared plus x plus 6. And then again, we're going to multiply by 3 minus x because we've got another 3 minus x. 3 minus x. So these two terms multiplied, we're going to have minus 3x squared plus 3x. 3 times 6 is 18. And these two terms will be, it's going to be positive because we've got multiplying two negatives together. So it's just going to be x cubed. And then it's going to be negative x squared. And then negative 6x. And again, we've got the negative diagonals that are going to simplify. So those are going to simplify, and also those two terms are going to simplify. So we're going to have x cubed. These two terms are going to be negative 4x squared. These two terms are going to be negative 3x squared. And finally, we've got that plus 18 at the end there. So this here is my final answer. So hopefully you got on well with those 4 questions, and obviously you can do your workings in any way you want. You can use FOIL if you want, or if you've got another method, that's absolutely fine. As long as you get the right answer, that's the main thing that matters. I just like doing it like this because you can see exactly how many terms you need, and you know that you haven't forgotten any multiplications. So we've done quite a lot on expanding brackets. So in the next video, we're going to probably look more at a bit of problem solving using expanding brackets. And then we're going to move on to factorizing. So hopefully you'll join me for those videos. And thanks again for watching. Take care.